Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creating Tailwinds Podcast by FlightPath Financial with your hosts, John Urbick and Jared Adams. Join us today as we discuss the power of infinite banking. And here we go.
Greetings, John. How are you today, sir?
I am doing wonderfully, Jared. Thank you. How
Excellent.
are you today?
Well, I am on the right side of the dirt, so that's a great spot to start. I've been very lucky to get some time with the kiddos. I feel like I'm just all day nonstop, and they are the ones that end up taking a little short part of the stick. So to be able to take an evening or an entire day away and be with them, it's just refilling of the tank. So I'm
Nice.
very excited to jump back in and keep rolling.
Fantastic, Jared. Fantastic.
Yeah. What's been new in your world? What have you been doing?
Oh gosh, just been running all day long and just kind of recovering from Think Tank. And I understand that's what we're going to cover today, huh?
I think that's an awesome topic. I know, we were able to capture some sound bites from our time at Think Tank from some various folks that were there. And to be able to play a couple of both their thoughts and their responses to some questions we had. And then, I was thinking maybe you and I can just make a couple of comments afterwards. The folks that were there at Think Tank, how awesome. What a really cool community. I'm only 2 to 3 years into this, so I'm not an IBC veteran by any means, but every day I learn a little bit more and get better at this. But has that been your same experience throughout all the think tanks that you've been to? It's always this amazing community is what I've picked up from you.
You can come at this from so many different directions. And I've always walked away from every think tank with a sense of purpose, a sense of motivation, and a sense of, gosh, there's so much more we can do with this, and we got to get out there and tell people.
Sure.
So
That makes sense. For me, being the first time there, it was kind of like I kind of felt like, sitting in the front row of your favorite rock band concert. Like all of these people who I've only seen their names either on a book or in a video or on a webinar or fill in the blank, all of these absolute IBC rock stars. And here they are in person, in the flesh. And not only that, but even though I kind of had them on a pedestal for all of the knowledge that I've gained from their books or their content, they were the most down to earth, amazing people to just have a conversation with. Like they didn't know that I had put them on a pedestal in my brain, but I kind of did because I've only read or seen their face online. So it was really cool for me to be able to, put the 3D body to the actual content or story that I may have seen online.
it's so true. You have a room full of hundreds of people, and every single one of them, it would give you their shirt off their back. It's a great group of people. There are no egos. There's just, let's get this done together, and they'll bend over backwards to help you. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, how about we dive in? I think there's 3 clips that we're going to start with today. So let's share the first one. To cue it up, we're going to hear from Barry Page. Barry Page recently had us on his webinar. Barry Page is in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And I'll just dive right in here with a clip. Any other thing you'd like to say to open that up, John?
No, let's roll with it, and then we can comment on it.
All right, here we go with Mr. Barry Page.
Ladies and gentlemen, here with Barry Page at Think Tank 2025, and Barry is one of the old pros in this space, and we're just here to ask Barry his thoughts on infinite banking and why if you're out there considering infinite banking, why you ought to take that step and pick up the phone and call a practitioner. Call Barry, call me, call somebody from the Nelson Nash Institute. We'd love to hear from you. Barry, what do you think? What advice would you like to give to someone thinking about becoming learning about the infinite banking concept and taking that step?
Well, thanks, John. Barry Page. I'm from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and I was blessed enough to meet Nelson about 20 years ago, and it really transformed my life. I'm just a slow learner, though, I guess. It took me a while to grab a hold of it, but for anybody just thinking about this, looking at infinite banking, I would say read the book, Becoming Your Own Banker, first of all, and just open your mind up, to the truth, what's really going on with money and how you can take control and bring the banking down to the you and me level, as Nelson always said. And It takes practice, it takes time, it takes commitment. But if you really just want to escape the rat race and experience financial freedom, you can do it by becoming your own banker. So we're here at the Think Tank, but there's plenty of ways to learn. You can learn from the Nelson Nash Institute, and if you ever get the opportunity to come to a think tank, that would be great. But if you want to learn what's really going on with your money and take control of it, this is how you can do it.
That's outstanding. Barry, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us about infinite banking. We're all here for the same reason.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A great few words from Barry there, Jared. And one of the things that he talks about, he repeated what Nelson would say that really resonated with me was bringing banking down to the you and me level. People think
Yes.
that banking is so complicated. It truly is not. It's such a simple practice of moving money. It's the only difference is it's going to be use our banking facility to keep and warehouse our money rather than the Bank of Main Street. So the you and me level, I love that. I
I
love
do
that.
too. The you and me level, it brings like a reality to me of what the possibilities are. And, like I said, from someone that's not been doing this for too long, that's a scary possible responsibility to think about. And not scary in the sense of I'm going to run away from it, but scary in the sense that everybody for your entire life potentially has told you, we know how to take care of your money the best, or we know where it should go, or we know how to manage it, or we know what to do with it. And then here we are sitting at a spot where you made a lot of money and you were, worked real hard to get it. And what do you have to show for it? You've got some numbers in a 401k account, and you've got some property that you lease back from the government, it seems like. I just don't know anywhere other to put than that the banking piece is scaring, or scary to me. It's just scary to think about to becoming a banker. And yet, when you start to peel the layers back, it's like, this really isn't that hard. This isn't that complicated. I know what best to do with my money. I was the one that earned it. I'd like control of it and where it goes and what it does with it. I don't know. Maybe that gets a little out of bounds.
A couple of the other key things that Barry talked about is opening your mind to the truth about money.
Rethink your
Can't
thinking.
rethink your thinking because
Yep.
and how are you going to get there? As Barry said, read the book. You can get the book from our website,
Yep.
flightpathfinancial.com.
Yep.
You can get it from the Nelson Nash Institute. You can
That's right.
Google it and find it in plenty of other places. But I can't emphasize, and I'm sure Jared would agree with me, can't emphasize enough how important it is to pick up that book. It's 92 pages. It's an easy read. You can do this.
Text John or I. We'll give you even a reading guide on how to get through those 92 pages in the most effective way.
Make it easy. The Reader's
That's right.
Digest version even, huh?
That's right. The Reader's Digest.
Or Cliff Notes used to be. And I don't know
Well,
if those
maybe
are
not
still
Cliff
around.
Notes. We'll give you a pathway on how best to absorb that awesome 92 pages.
One of the other things that Barry mentioned, he talked about 20 years ago when he met Nelson, that he was kind of a slow learner. And can't emphasize enough how easy this process. If you haven't figured out my strong feelings on that by now, you will. It is beyond easy. You put your money inside of a dividend-paying whole life insurance contract, properly built, and you're going to be up and running in no time. And Jared and I will talk as we unfold throughout these podcasts. If you choose to get to know us, we can show you where all that money flows and why it always winds up back in your pocket.
I mean, that's not, couldn't said it any better, John. The properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance, truly the best vehicle that allows you to take over the financial function in your life, the banking function in your life. There was an interesting comment from someone that I wasn't able to capture on the sound clips, but there was an interesting comment that I took away from Think Tank where someone said, if fill in the blank vehicle was better than what we have, if there was any vehicle out there that was better than properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance, that every person that occupies a chair at the think tank would say, let's go with that vehicle. There is
Amen.
no tie to insurance. There is a tie to it because it's the best vehicle, but there is no dedication to that product other than it is the best vehicle. If they had a fill in the blank product that was better than dividend paying whole life insurance, everyone there would be like, okay, let's go use that product. So it's really interesting to kind of draw that line between the infinite banking concepts and the insurance world, because we absolutely, that's what we use. We use properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance. But if there was something better that came along, we're not married to it. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I don't even know that I've shared that with you since we've returned.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely correct. It is merely the chassis upon which we build our personal bank.
Yep.
The dividend paying whole life insurance contract is nothing more than the chassis. You got to build the thing out after that point.
Yep.
And there are many different chassis that you could use. You could do a home equity loan. You could do municipal bonds. You could do CDs. There's a lot of ways to build these things. But if you look at the advantages are built inside of a dividend paying whole life insurance contract, you're not going to find anything better. You simply won't. And I would have that discussion with anybody. I don't care who they are.
Sure.
And I'd win it.
Well, I agree with that. Well, let's roll with one of the other sound clips that we did get while at the think tank. I'll go over to the lovely Susan Stevens, who I believe was from Maryland, and let's cue up her clip here, and we'll see what we think. And we're here with Susan Stevenson. Tell us where you're from, the name of your company, and give us some IBC background.
So my name is Susan Stevenson. I am from Maryland, Columbia, Maryland to be exact. I am the founder and owner of 180 Financial Solutions. IBC background just from life, right? Access to capital, money was being warehoused all in the wrong buckets. I was making everybody else rich, but myself, like anybody, you want to go access your money, you can't access it. There are penalties, there are fees. So I was on a search to find out a better way. I knew it existed. I just did not know much about it. So a few years back in 2019, somebody shared with me the book, Becoming Your Own Banker. I read the book. I was invited to the think tank as a guest, and that's all she wrote.
So you're smarter than me. I heard about the book in 2010, and it wasn't until 2021 until I got my first policy. So maybe you can just, if we stand close enough to each other, maybe I can get a little osmosis of your intelligence, because it took me a lot longer to get it than it did for you.
It just made sense, right? The money has to reside somewhere. Where do you want it to reside? In someone else's banking system or in your banking system that you have control, leverage, and the ability to use it when you want to. So it was really a no-brainer. It was just such a phenomenal revelation, and it's been amazing.
Would you mind sharing a story of maybe someone whose life you've changed or you've seen change through the process of IBC?
Well, they say the best thing is when you change your life. So I'm going to start with me. I'm not going to go with anybody else. So when I found about IBC, I was going through a divorce, and I had access to, I did not have access to capital. I had a lot of money. I couldn't access the money. So when I found out with IBC and I understood the principle of having control of your own money, I made some very bold moves that most people would not make. I took a hit in my 401k, and I established my own banking system. And from there, I was able to self-finance my car and recapture the capital. I had a small trucking company, which I had financed the first 2 tractors, but haven't been able to just reposition the same cash within my ecosystem. I was able to self-finance 10 additional tractors without ever giving up the opportunity cost. And I recaptured not only the principal, but the interest, and paid myself back. That is my story.
Do you think this is hard for people?
It shouldn't be, but sometimes, because it sounds so good to be true, and we've been indoctrinated so much to think otherwise. So, but for those who get it, it is amazing. It's like liberate. It's like you were a bald eagle caged, and now you can fly. That's really how I feel finding this concept.
And such a perfect description of caught, not taught, right? Like we use that all the time in our podcast, and it's really difficult to understand. But when it goes off, it's like someone just released doves into the air.
It's like finally.
Thank you so much, Susan.
You're so welcome.
Susan, thank you very much for talking with us. Great piece there, Jared.
Pretty cool on her image of a bald eagle caged that was now able to fly. I just thought that was a cool description.
That is a great verbal visual, isn't it?
I know, right? So what a crazy thought though to think who in her life would have told her that she was absolutely bonkers to go take money out of a 401k, take a penalty, take the hit, and then create her own banking system to be able to finance trucks and finance the business that she's running. Can you imagine the conversations that were had behind closed doors at that time on how just firm that she would have had to have been in her beliefs and what she read and what her knowledge was?
You know, she said she got into it in 2019, right? So we just had Think Tank 2025. That's 6 years ago.
Yep.
And the absolutely scandalous thing of getting rid of your 401k, and I'm not advocating anybody do anything without thinking through the consequences of it, because in her case, if you liquidate a 401k, if your company even allows you to do it, you're going to pay ordinary income tax, and you're going to get a 10% penalty
That's right.
on those funds that you take out prior to 59 and a half. Now, there's some exceptions to that, but as a general rule, what it is. However, I know a lot of people, Jared, that are electing to do just that. Why? I mean, here we're talking 6 years for this lady, and now she's self-financing 10 tractors.
Crazy.
Pretty cool, because she understands that she was making money for everybody else and not herself, because she was not the banker. And when you understand how things work and how money flows, when you finally get that, there's no going back. You say, well, why would I do it the way that everybody else is doing it? Why would I do it the way I used to do it? Because once you begin to capitalize, and the more you capitalize, the more powerful your engine becomes. It's a tremendous liberating feeling to know that you have true financial freedom. And I've said this 100 times if I've said it once, but freedom, and I'm a big individualist, I believe in freedom. You can't have freedom if you don't have economic freedom. They're
Right.
tied together.
Sure.
So,
Yep. And even her, her comment about indoctrination. We were
yeah.
just talking about that a couple of minutes ago, talking about this system that bankers are supposed to control everything and that they know what's best for you and what we've all been indoctrinated to view. I mean, she put it elegantly into a couple of words, but it took me, a minute and a half to get through. So I was just very impressed with her character, her charisma, and really thankful that she took a couple of minutes to speak with us, because what an amazing story. And then even to build on that further, she got up to the mic at one point and was talking about some of the stories of the people she's been able to help since then. So it's not just, she was able to turn around her personal story and her personal landscape, which you do. You have to, you have to take care of you first, but then to be able to give back to the community, become a practitioner, just a really cool story.
I I agree with you. And the important thing that she said, among the many things that she said,
Yep.
the best thing is when you change your life first, right?
Yep.
So many practitioners started out as they were the guinea pig. They said, I'm not so sure about this. What is this? How's this thing going to work? And then after they've done it, they're going, oh my gosh, this stuff does work. This is killer. I got to get this out there. And they get so excited about the concept that they're talking to everybody that will listen to them about, look, you can do this too. I want to share this with you. And it's a beautiful thing when you bring people in and they learn the power of infinite banking, and that you don't have to be a victim of anybody else's bank. You create your own, and you drive the end game. It's wonderful.
Yep. Yeah, very impressive. It was really cool to be able to chat with Susan. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, she was a very nice lady.
Yep. Well, let's press on to one more clip. I've got about a 7-minute clip here from Rich Canfield, gentleman north of the border, a true character. I think you'll pick that up from the audio clip. Awesome to be able not only to meet Rich for the first time, but to spend some time with him, not only in the think tank, but to grab dinner with him and just get to know him a little bit better.
Yeah, Rich is always has a energy deficit, I'm afraid. He's just a very he is the most energy rich person I think I've ever met. He's incredible.
All right. Well, here's the clip from Rich.
Okay.
We're here at 2025 Think Tank with Rich Canfield. We got a couple of questions on. Just give me the name, give me the company you're with, and some why IBC.
Got it. So it's Richard Canfield. We have an amazing podcast called Wealth on Main Street. I represent Ascendant Financial up in Canada. Of course, we operate here in the States as well. We love education. We love helping people. Why IBC? Because IBC is life. It is a lifestyle. It is something that you implement. Money's going to come into your life and it's going to flow out of your life. How much of that money between the in and the out do you control for the rest of time as it relates to your needs, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and so on? If we can optimize that process, your life is better and every member of your family line becomes better. That's what we do, and that's why it's so amazing. Make IBC a lifestyle. Coming to the 2025 Think Tank is just the beginning. Now you got to come to 2026, 2027. You got to keep coming back. You got to be around the people. Nobody elevates themselves much better than the environment that they support themselves in. So you got to be in an environment that's full of nourishment. That's what we got here at the Think Tank.
That's super awesome. This is going to get edited out, but can we make IBC great again?
I concur. I think that we can. I think we can make IBC great again. But the real true people know that it was always great and it never went away.
Amen.
Some people may have diverted over time, but they're coming back to the fold of the IBC fold. So yeah.
Fantastic. A story or maybe a quip of someone in the last year that you would like to share who's been positively impacted by using IBC as a concept and as a practice, not as a investment.
IBC is a concept and a practice. Okay, so an example would be a great client of mine. Actually, I'm going to be working on writing a chapter in an upcoming book about client stories for Infinite Banking with him. Amazing individual, and he's got a pretty robust business, but it wasn't always the case. Very impacted by the oil industry. So when oil is up or the political environment's up, things change. It could drastically impact his business for a long period of time. And he used policy loans from policies to help make payroll in many of those lean years and to keep the lights on in the business so that the business didn't die. And he did that more than once. Now, because of it, they have completely eliminated their operating line, $1 million operating line of credit from a third-party bank. They now run that operating line through their holding company using policies. They own their building with a holding company, all paid for and renovated by policies, plus about 7 other buildings in the same small town. And all that rent, he does economic value add. He pays a market rent for all those things, and all that money comes back to the policy system. He's increased the size of his system. Now he's scaling by buying out not competitors, but common line locating businesses that are adjacent to his regular territory. He's maintaining that business as a standalone business, but it's all managed under his core umbrella. So he's creating economics of scale by delineating management activities and system processes that the other companies didn't have to make each one more efficient. And so now he can actually sell when it's time to sell. He can choose to sell an independent business or he can sell a group of companies.
Wow.
And he's been able to do that because he first capitalized.
Don't be afraid to capitalize.
Don't be afraid to capitalize.
Just a rough ballpark, how long it took for him to build up the ability to be able to take care of some of those policy loans that were able to then cover those costs? Are we talking 1 year, 7 years, 20 years?
Well, he's been in this process now for about 10 years, roughly speaking. Sure. He'd been using policies immediately right on. The initial 2 policies that he got, actually, I didn't help him get. They had a group benefit person come into their company, and they were doing with that, and he knew that he wanted this, and because he's a busy entrepreneur, he told them what he wanted, and he got maybe a third of what he wanted fundamentally, but it was still better than zero. And so when he reached out to me, he was actually considering canceling those policies because it was a bad economic time, and he knew that they weren't done properly, and he was really upset with the guy. And I saved those policies because you can't replace them. Sure. And then we later had to optimize, and in fact, at one point we had to reduce them because of some of the economic factors. Sure. But since then, he's doubled up, and he's doing 2 to 3 times the amount of premium he was doing originally, and he was already doing substantial premium. So he does probably around $500,000 a year, roughly, of overall premium now, and he has a very substantial system. But I mean, his total business revenue on all lines from the different companies, he probably does about $6 or $7 million of gross top line revenue, and he's got a pretty good profit margin on some of that. So, but again, it wasn't always the case. So, patience, persistence. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but with patience and persistence, man can piss through a rock.
That's spot on. Absolutely spot on. Rich, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Really cool story. And I guess the emphasis point at the end of it is this wasn't just something he created overnight. You didn't walk in to the IBC shop, build a policy, and then the next day take $100,000 away from that.
No, definitely not. Yeah. No, it took a number of years, and it took practice. Yeah. And there was a lot of time where they were not very good stewards at repaying policy loans. Sure. But it wasn't necessarily because they didn't want to. So it wasn't necessarily about behavior, it was about circumstance. Sure. I interviewed Nelson in 2017, and I had a meeting with him and my clients, and unfortunately the audio quality wasn't great on the recording, but it was a poor economic time in Alberta, Canada at that time because of oil price. Let's say a less than business friendly provincial government that was in play. Sure. And so that was part of the same economic turmoil that impacted my client. But he wasn't the only one impacted. A lot of other people were impacted. Sure. People were losing jobs, downsized, that sort of thing. And so I asked Nelson, I said, Nelson, a lot of people, they're going through tough times, and there's people going through tough times right now at the time that we're recording this. Yeah. And I said, if they're using policy loans, they're grasping at straws, they're doing things, what if they're not able to make their policy loan repayments back? And Nelson says, well, that's what the policy's there for, isn't it? When times are bad, use it. Right. When times are good, put it back. He didn't make it any more complicated than that. Yeah. So, we can get really wrapped up emotionally around these decisions that we make of how important it is to do things. And we need to have some firm walls and barriers and commitments. But life isn't perfect, and it's up and down, and we've all got scars on our battle scars about life that we've had to deal with. Recognize that your financial life is no different, and there's going to be good times and bad times. Make hay when the sun is shining. Repay policy loans. Take windfall events. Smash those things out. Put yourself in a good position, but don't ever forget about paying the premium. The premium is the solution.
Sure. Spot on. Thanks so much, Rich. Appreciate your time.
Right on, guys.
I just get so much out of that guy.
I know, right? I as you can tell, he's got zero energy. He just sits there. He's just kind of a bug on the wall. Like, what an awesome guy.
He's a fantastic guy. And, in that story that he gave about the oil industry, a lot of people that are listening to these podcasts and gathering information online, this is for businesses too. I mean, this isn't just for individuals. As Rich pointed out, I mean, this company had $1 million line of credit. They were on the verge of bankruptcy, and their policy loans are what saved their bacon. And once they understood the power of what they could do, they began to reverse course and really build out their insurance premiums so that they could capitalize them for future eventualities. And They built this up to a $500,000 a year in premium business, which was kicking out about $5 to $6 million a year of top line revenue. That is one wonderful story.
It's amazing. I mean,
and how long did it take? 10 years, he said?
Yeah, I think he said that they had a policy for 10 years before truly dipping into some of it. That was what I got from the story.
Yeah.
So it just like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to take time and patience and persistence, I think he said. Pretty amazing. The other thing that I took from his story was the gentleman that went to the bank and requested a certain amount and only got approved for a third of it. So right. The question for you is, whenever you've you know exactly what your cash values are in your insurance policies that you have in your dividend paying whole life. When you notice that there's an amount there that you need to access, have you ever had the insurance company tell you, no, we're only going to give you a third of what you've asked for?
Never have had that happen.
Yeah,
and I've taken many policy loans over the years, Jared.
Yep. Likewise.
Never an issue. Never an issue.
Pretty amazing to be able to take the control and have the have the access to your capital.
I mean, honestly, think about that. I mean, here's this guy within a 10-year time frame. They own their own building that they had a lease on.
Yep.
Or at least a mortgage on. They have $1 million in their line of credit that is flowing from their banking contracts. The contracts. This is a system of contracts which make up their system of payments to capitalize their entire oil industry business. How many other, I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to that have had issues with banks, particularly when times get lean or maybe there's a cash crunch. For instance, I had one very recently.
Sure.
And they're like, I wish I had this 10 years ago, because if I did, I wouldn't have this problem with this bank right now. I said,
Sure.
we can fix that. So my message to all of those out there, all those small business owners, don't rely on your line of credit from your banks. You need it right now, but this is a system that you can build with your current cash flow and transition all that interest back into your banking system, not into Bank of Mainstream's banking system
That's right.
that you do not participate in.
Exactly. Yep. And I mean, I've never truly owned a business that's that large, so I don't know what it's like to have $1 million or $5 million in yearly revenue. But to think of what the output is for that type of a business, that's part of the reason why my understanding is why you build these up so large is that you know exactly what's coming in that you might be able to borrow against the value of that business for future investments, whether it's to make payroll, whether it's to buy equipment, whatever that might be. You've built up this equity in this business so that you could borrow against it right from the Bank of Main Street. And then they go, well, no, you can only have a part of that. Or maybe it's good times and they give you more than a third. But all of that goes out the window when you do the exact same thing, only you do it through dividend paying whole life insurance. When you are the owner of that product and that you can say, I need that amount of capital, and it shows up to your bank account in 3 days.
Yeah.
Again, you can use it for whatever you need for, but it shows up in 3 days.
Right. Right. Now, rather than pumping money into qualified plans, people ought to take a hard look at this system instead.
Sure.
Because you're giving up all access, use, and control of your money for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Somebody else is enjoying the benefit of your money, and it's not your money until it's back in your pocket, is it? We have no idea what you're going to be charged in on what the tax tables are going to look like in 10, let alone 30 years.
That's right.
So why not get the taxes out of the way now and put yourself in a position to capitalize your banking system so that when opportunities present themselves, and they will, you're going to be in a great position to maximize your own economic future and not defer it to people you don't even know who don't really care about you.
That's right. Well said. One of the other things to point out when Rich was talking, he talked about, I think it was near the end, that even though they had, the use of policy loans, or they were using some of the money from their policy, they had loaned against it, and they weren't able to pay back as they had expected. And the highlight point there was, I think he said that they were not great stewards of the money at that time.
Right.
Yet they were able to lean on resources and lean on people that they didn't quit. They never gave up. They kept fighting. The point I took away from that was, even though you do capitalize, even though you set up this amazing system, you still have to be conscious about where it's going and what you're doing it with, and still continue to be a good steward. It's your money. You have to be a good steward of your money. And yet the way he commented about it, it was, it was during a bad time. It was during a bad circumstance. So,
and that's what it's there for.
That's right. That's right.
When you've got a mortgage on a place, whether you own $1 million or $15, what equity control does the bank have at $1 million? It has 100%, whether it's $1 million or whether it's $15.
That's right.
So you are giving them all of that control for what? If you had control of it within your own infinite banking system, they have no control. And guess what? Let's say you do have a couple of lean months, weeks, even a year, and you have a loan with the bank. When that mortgage comes due at 30, 60, 90, it gets ugly. They start jacking up costs. They increase your
sending nasty
rate.
grams.
Exactly right. And there's all kinds of things that can happen within a mortgage contract with a bank, or even a loan contract with a bank, that many business owners are not even aware of.
That's
the
right.
amount of control that begins to slip from their fingers to the bank. Whereas if you're in an IBC contract and you can't make that payment that you've designed for yourself at 30 days, it's a non-event.
Sure.
60 days, non-event. 90 days, non-event. A year, non-event. As long as the premium is paid on that contract, you are good to go. All that happens is that loan is carried at interest. And so the following year, when things resume in the oil business and you've got a boom month to year, you can recapitalize everything and put the
That's right.
money back.
Yep.
So it gives you the ultimate flexibility as a business owner.
Yep.
So powerful.
Exactly. And that was a perfect recap of what I was trying to say. Basically saying that where the collateral lies, right? If you're at the Bank of Main Street Mortgage and you start to go short on some payments, the collateral is the property, and they're legally allowed to come take that property from you. Yet, what's the collateral on a policy loan from a properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance? It's the death benefit. So they have zero ability to come in and take anything that you own. If you don't pay the loan, the policy loan that they've provided, which is again the funds from their general ledger that you're borrowing, those funds, if not paid back, carry an interest charge. If times are not working out, you're unable to pay that, they show up to garner zero. They will take nothing.
Let me just add, and I think this is what you meant. The collateral is not the death benefit; it's the cash value.
That's right.
The death benefit, of course, backstops it all. But when you put your money into one of these contracts, the reason that the life insurance company will give you a collateralized loan against them is because they have your money in their accounts.
That's right.
And it's a very, very powerful position to be in. It's better than treasuries.
Sure.
They already have your money. It's just segregated and it's working for you year over year, making money for you, increased death benefit, increased cash values, guaranteed year over year over year. Never goes down. Doesn't. Try that at a bank.
That's awesome. Well said. Thanks for the clarification on that.
No, I knew that's what you meant. I just want to make sure listeners got it.
That's right. One last thing that I took away from Rich, and it wasn't what he said in our clip with him. It was something he said when he was up on stage as the MC for the event. He said at one point that our job as practitioners or as stewards of IBC is not to go out and change the message or alter the message. The message has already been set, and it's been set by Nelson Nash in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And it's there. There's nothing that needs to be adulterated, changed, edited, or otherwise. And that we make it best by sharing how it personally impacted our life and how it personally affected other lives. There wasn't any better way that he could put that. I thought that was really cool. Did you catch that part when he said that?
Yeah, it's so simple. It's simple.
It is.
You don't have to. Both you and I have some very advanced degrees, and we've done a lot of really cool stuff in our lives. But you and I can sit down and say, you don't need any of it. This is so simple. This really is so simple.
Right. There is no advanced degree required for you to do IBC for your family.
No college education, no high school education is required to get this concept. It works. It's powerful.
Do you have a calculator? Okay, good. Do you know how to repay the money that you're spending? Like, you don't overspend, right? Nope. Okay. You're in. You're good to go. Let's talk.
Exactly right. It's, you certainly want to recapitalize when or capitalize your contracts and pay the loans back when you take them. But that's system. And the faster you pay them back, people don't get this little nuance. The faster you pay them back by, say, doubling the interest you're going to pay into your loan, it's going to accelerate your death benefit and cash values. Why? Because your dividends are predicated on the average daily balance in your account. There's some changes to this, but generally speaking, the insurance company is going to look at, well, how much is in your policy? How much cash value do you have in there? If you're paying into that thing and you overpay the interest on a loan, for instance, and that loan's paid for and you keep paying into it, where does those excess funds go? They go right into your policy, which buys additional death benefit and additional cash value. That cash value will drive a higher dividend number for you. And so if you do that perpetually, you create that tailwind that we talked about. And pretty soon,
even though we just said how simple this is, this can be a complicated topic. And I don't think it's complicated in the actual sense. It's complicated by how the normal banks use the term loan, right?
Right.
The reason why I say that is I had a client recently say, well, why would I want to, if the insurance is charging 7% for the cost to borrow money from their general ledger, why would I want to pay that back at 14%? And the reason why they asked that question was they assumed that all 14% went back to the insurance company.
Bingo.
And I had to explain, and it didn't take long, but I had to basically say, hey, the only thing they're charging is a 7%, and that changes by company. But if you were to assume the 7% interest rate, that's what their fee is. And that's a straight interest. That's not via an amortized schedule. That's whatever the balance is for that day times 7% divided by 365. There's your daily interest charge. Easy,
Exactly.
easy peasy.
Exactly.
But that's the 7, right? If you took that 14% that we were talking about, that additional 7 is going back to paying the borrowed money, the loan, right? The way you could look at it from a Bank of Main Street turn would be a principal. You're repaying the principal. That's not the way that they look at this in these scenarios. But since we're just having to reprogram our mind on how we look at these different financial terms, it's just a little different. Any way that you say that better?
No, I would add is that you've got a bucket of money that you've borrowed, and once you've filled up that bucket, and that bucket might have a brim to it, and that might constitute a visual for interest.
Sure.
Once that's full, any spillage after you keep paying into that thing goes where? It doesn't stay with that bucket. It goes right to your contract,
That's right.
which you own and control.
Yep.
So you can't pay too much. You really can't. As a matter of fact, if you're smart and you've got surplus funds, you want to dump them in there ASAP. I carry over a balance and some stuff from a few other accounts, and we were looking at it the other night, Jared. And I said, well, shoot, I got 18 grand sitting here. I don't need that money for 2 months, and I am constantly cycling in and out of my contracts.
Yep.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to throw that money into my contract. I might need it again, but what has it done? First of all, it capitalizes the account on the PUA side. If I have any extra, which I happen to in this case, it's going to pay the PUA first, and then any extra will go toward offsetting some of my loan interest that I'm paying,
Sure.
reducing my loan interest, and building my corpus of the base insurance, which is PUA, which comes with cash value. Now I'm kind of getting into the weeds here, but the point is, it's like a balloon. It gets bigger and bigger and better and better.
Yep.
So, folks, this stuff works. Works
awesome.
Great.
Well, another great episode. Any closing remarks for us today, John?
No, Jared, I think it's been a full day. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for putting everything together as you always do. You always do such a stellar job. And we look forward to catching up with everybody on the next Creating Tailwinds podcast.
Well said. Appreciate that, John. Appreciate the kind words. And thanks again to Barry, Rich, and Susan that gave us a couple of sound bites that we could use today to kind of give us a springboard for discussion. So thanks to all of them. Thank you, John. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Creating Tailwinds podcast with your hosts, John and Jared. As always, we welcome your questions and critiques. You can reach us through the Contact Us tab at flightpathfinancial.com. Remember, it's all about how you think. As Nelson Nash has said about infinite banking, give it your close attention, and it can make a radical improvement in your financial future.